scrimmaging, no all-out running yet. And those are all things, natural progression that he's going to need to have. He's going to come back from a calf injury. This is the same like we've talked about Achilles, hamstring, and now calf. They need to be cautious. They need to be careful. When they bring him back, he's got to go through the natural progressions. And I think that will start with the cutting and the scrimmaging and the running and the full throttle jumping on your jump shots. Game 3 is Friday. I think the fact that you haven't progressed to that, and we'll see if he does over the next 2 days. Game 3 might be pushing it. Game 4 on Sunday, but I think the Bucks have to be prepared to keep playing on without Giannis, making sure he's 100% when he does make it back.
The great Shams Charania, one of the great insiders in the NBA, on FanDuel TV about Giannis and his availability, likely availability or unavailability for the series. Not great, but then again, what were you expecting, right? For more on this, Ty Windisch joins us now as he does every Thursday from the Gyro Step podcast. Ty, good morning. How are you, my friend?
Good morning. The clip makes me a little less good, but frankly, I think it's pretty much what I and a lot of us who have been following the team closely expected. I don't think, as much as we talked about, we've had this whole conversation after game 1, before game 1, after game 2 of okay, if you keep winning, can you push him back even farther? All of that sounds great. I think we all know Giannis. When he's cleared to play, I think he's just going to play. I think if he was very close to playing in game 2, he either would have he might have just played, right? I think we've seen him before do this. I don't think he's gonna, try and be strategic here. I think he is rushing to get back, and I don't the Bucks aren't rushing him, to be clear. I think he is doing everything he can to get back as soon as possible. And I think if he was very, very close, he probably would have just played. So I've been kind of thinking game 4, not sourced, of course, but just what made sense given the timeline of the injury and the cadence of the series and everything else. We'll see how game 3 goes and where the Bucks are at heading into game 4. But it's not great news, but I think it's really just kind of expected news on the Giannis front.
All right. So what then is the template for winning games, plural, because they need to win a couple here probably, without Giannis? Give me the basic recipe for the Giannis-less Bucks to win.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult, but clearly they did it at least once. So I think they've got to adjust the way they're defending the Pacers. And just to be more clear, they've been sending 2 at Halliburton all the time, which I think has helped reduce his scoring, but it's made life too easy for Pascal Siakam, who is having wilt numbers of shooting efficiency and scoring through 2 games. I mean, it's been ridiculous. And I think game 1, it was like, okay, you can live with that. Game 2, Indiana shooters showed up too. You could not live with Indiana knocking down threes and what Siakam's doing inside. And I think Milwaukee needs to probably just try and make Halliburton more of a scorer, give him the matchup he wants, and see if he can take advantage and not go so far from those 3-point shooters, and then try something else on Siakam. I would like to see one of the young players, Andre Jackson Jr., or maybe even Chris Livingston, who, I'm going to live on a half against Utah and 2 minutes of garbage time in game 2. He looked good defending Siakam. He's looked good in his limited run, but he's barely played. I'm fine with trying Ajax too. I would like to see one of the young guys, just because Jay Crowder, who I thought coming into the matchup could do a good job, has not. So maybe a little more on him, but yeah, not Crowder. Give me somebody else.
Minutes need to be a total of 8 minutes in general. 15 that he had game 2 was too many in general. Whoever that is needs to be no more than 8 minutes, in my opinion. Am I wrong in that?
Well, I don't know. You might have to get a little inventive, because I don't know who else in the general in the rotation right now you can put on Siakam.
Who's going to take those minutes?
You only played 15. Jay only played 15 last game.
Well, the nasty. So yeah, give the nasty 8 minutes a run. Oh, that'd be great.
No, I think you can
put him out there, throw some bows. You
extend your starters' minutes.
All right.
Well, I would like to see. To that point, I would like to see Bobby Portis actually stick on him more. I did think in a couple of possessions when Siakam isoed Portis, it wasn't horrible for the Bucks. But the problem is when Bobby's out there, they love to trap and blitz.
Score, defend, and bring energy. That's all you need to do, Bobby.
I think they need him to score a little bit more too. They need him to convert those shots around the rim for sure. But I think, keep him on Siakam. Don't have him go trap Halliburton, because then, he's too good of a passer, right? I think the way the Bucks are sending these traps, Halliburton's finding the open guy every time, or just kicking it to Siakam and him playing 4-on-3. I mean, the Bucks can't handle him one-on-one. They certainly can't handle him at a disadvantage. So I would like to see them play Siakam more straight up anyway and see if Bobby can do it. But I would also like to see from the bench someone new to try because I've just been very disappointed with Crowder.
Dr. Butch, scrub in. Would you give us a recipe for winning a game that doesn't involve, well, if Dame goes for 50, I think we got a shot. Give me a better recipe than that.
To me, Ty, you've talked a lot of defense, but to me, it's offensively. The ball needs to pop. The ball needs to move. I mean, and one of the things that I've been extremely harsh on Bobby Portis for is this. Like, he catches – it's a black hole. My kids watch space movies. I say, right there, you're watching Bobby Portis play, and I point at the black hole that comes up on the TV. Like, that's what he's been. He's, number one, not good enough to be a black hole. Like, do what you do, but do it well. Why are you a fan favorite? You've got your energy. You got your effort. Rely on that. Lock in defensively. But offensively, I think the lack of ball movement, the way that they've gone isolation now with more than just Chris. Chris is the only one to me that should be in isolation. Even Dame. Dame hasn't been great in isolation this year. Get him in pick and rolls. Offensively, what have you seen from them?
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I think the 2 points where they had gotten really close in game 2, and it's easy to forget, they ended up, of course, losing by a lot by the time the fourth quarter rolled around. But I think within 2 in like the third quarter, and I think it was a couple of Bobby ISOs that didn't work out. And then the worst part about that, similarly with Brook Lopez, if Bobby's missing these like short ISO hooks over a center, Indiana's able to run back and then usually have a 5-on-4 on the other end. And I think a couple of those in a row, once in the first half, once in the second half, really killed Milwaukee's chances of either in the first half building a lead, in the second half getting back into the lead. So I agree with that. I think Portis needs to be more of a passer. I distinctly remember a first half possession when I started to get a bad feeling about game 2. He gets doubled. He spins toward baseline, throws up a hook shot. It doesn't go in. And then he's arguing with the refs, and Indiana gets a 5-on-4. They get a dunk out of it. Those are the kind of possessions you can't have. You got to score if you're going to be around the rim or get the rebound, because if you're missing shots at the rim, Indiana's running. Those need to be high percentage looks, not ISOs. I agree with you. The ball movement needs to be better. You're getting 4-on-5s the way they're defending Dame. I don't think you can settle for just dumping it down in the post. I think you need to run more actions, find open shots, and just make sure you're not settling. I don't think you can settle for any shots without Giannis in the lineup.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is you have multiple sides. You know, it's something that's charted by every team. And when I say you break the court into 3 sides, 1, 2, and 3 columns, when you get multiple sides of the floor, the percentages drop as far as driving lanes. You get into the basket that way. Watch that Friday night when you watch this game. See how many multiple sides the ball gets. The ball gets shifted by Milwaukee. A lot of the times it's saying one-sided. Pacers are loaded up. Now, all of a sudden, they're trying to turn a corner. They're trying to get their defense. They're loaded. You take a bad shot, they're running, they're scoring. I mean, that's why they got almost, 16 more points in paint points from game 1 to game 2.
And layups.
Yeah. It was so hard to watch.
Yeah, it was.
So in terms of the physicality of the playoffs so far and the referees letting them play, who does this give a edge to, the Bucks or the Pacers, if it's going to be a let them play kind of game or let them play kind of series?
I would say probably slight to Pacers with the way they've been able to guard Dame until Giannis gets back. And then if that holds up, then I think it swings to the Bucks. And I think normally it would be Bucks anyway, the way they like to defend, but they have not been able to lean into their size. I mean, Brook Lopez, I think, was 6 of 7 from threes in game 2, and they lost his minutes because anytime he missed a shot within the paint, Indiana was just running back. And it's just hard to play that physical brand of basketball when you're not even able to get back and get set in the half court. So I think Milwaukee has kind of lost the advantage. Like if you remember the Thunder game the Bucks won in the regular season, that was the template they would love to use against this Indiana team of be bullies down low, don't give them anything in the paint, make them rely on threes to some of their shakier shooters. And that is kind of what happened in game 1. Game 2, though, Indiana ratcheted up the speed. And I think one of the interesting things will be, can Milwaukee find ways to keep the bigs on the floor more and punish the lack of size? Indiana is very small right now. Their only backup big was Obi Toppin, who's really just power forward. I mean, can you score at the rim efficiently and still get back? That's going to be a big challenge. Or do you have to go smaller? If so, how do you do it? Because there's not many other bigs on this roster. Is it Gallo time? I don't know if you're getting any faster with Danilo Gallinari, so I don't think so.
Gallo time, baby.
No. Do you see Chris at the 5? We saw that. He does have a heck of a haircut. We saw Chris at the 5 under Bud a couple times. I wonder if they'll try that at all. If, again, we're seeing the same thing of like, all right, Brook had a decent shot. He missed it. And now Indiana's run back the other way. I don't know, but I think it's better off if they can find a way to keep the size out there. but it's not easy, and it's going to require a very diligent game plan.
And how is Chris even? You know,
great question.
Like that's the other thing.
Not great, Bob.
He was already banged up, and then we
Not
saw him
great.
go down early and play through it. Right? He kept playing, but he definitely didn't get as much time or shots. I know, Butch, you brought that up as Middleton needed to step up, but can he? We don't know where he is physically. Everyone's been focusing on, Giannis and the injury there. It's tough.
Yeah, it's nice. It's a good time to have the extra day off between games and just to be in the playoffs where you have more of that going forward for Chris. I mean, certainly he's dealing with, that knee/ankle. I mean, the fact that he came back in pretty much right away and played through it. I mean, I would imagine we're not going to see him miss any time from here. We haven't heard anything to the contrary of that. Definitely not 100%, but I think Chris, for the bad reputation some fans put on him, and obviously he has struggled with injuries. I do think he's a warrior. He wants to play. I think he struggled a lot with the minutes restriction this year based on the interviews with him. Like, he wanted to play more. He felt he was ready, but the Bucks wanted to be cautious. And, knock on wood, it's worked out decently well. I think he's played quite a bit, and he's looked very good when he has played. He wasn't aggressive enough in game 2. I do wonder how much the injury played into that, but they need him to shoot more too. And I do wonder why they didn't go to more of the Chris screening for Dame. We saw it work so well on 1 or 2 possessions and just didn't see it more. I think if you do that, you trap Dame. Chris in a 4-on-3 is just deadly. I would do a little more of that, a little bit less of Pat Bev as the outlet guy, just because Indiana doesn't respect him as a scorer. But you also want to stagger Chris and Dame, so you can't do that all game. I mean, there's going to be times only one of them is out there. But I think when they're out there together, I would use them together in actions more, because as effective as Chris is in the mid-range, I think Indiana's just okay with living with, post-up 2s, and that's about it from him. You're not getting the other players involved. You're not moving the ball side to side like Butch said. So I would put those 2 in actions more. You have to hope Chris is okay, and that is a counterpoint to playing him at the 5. Like, I don't think you want to play him as a true center.
Right.
You probably need someone else out there, because you don't want to ask too much of Chris defensively. That's why I don't want to put him on Siakam much more either, just knowing he's struggling with the knee/ankle, everything right now.
Yeah. Well, I know TJ McConnell sucks, so there's that.
Be careful.
I'm like, McConnell's not an NBA player. He's a rec league player. Stinks.
Here
So
comes
punish
McConnell.
I know he's going to hit 16.
Thank you, Ty.
Please.
Welcome to my world, Ty.
TJ McConnell.
McConnell game winner.
Yeah. An impossible shot
from the logo.
That guy is YMCA written all over him. Picking up his dribble in all the wrong places.
Hey, careful now. Blocked. This is the Tyler Kolek blueprint.
That's for sure.
Well,
this is the Kolek blueprint. Let him cook so our guy can get there too.
Okay. All right. Is a split enough in Indiana?
I think 100%. Yeah. I think you get either of them. If you win game 3, I think you feel great about the series. And again, it's so funny. I just did a podcast with Tony East of Locked On Pacers, and it always feels like no matter what's going on in the whole series, whoever wins last feels the best. Yeah. I mean, the Bucks could feel awful if they lose game 3, but if they go in on game 4 then and steal that one without Giannis, they're in great position, I would say, going forward.
Does Giannis play game 4?
I think probably yes. Again, not sourced. Just that's always how I felt.
Just going off your gut, my gut says game 5 he plays. I don't think he plays game 4.
Again, I said I don't think you can keep him away. I do think if you win game 3, then
I was just going to say, what if you win game 3? If you win game 3, I think you won't see him until game 5.
I think if you win game 3, Troy Flanagan, the Bucks trainer, comes up to him and says, "We just got a new breakthrough, and we know you'll be good for game 3. That's your exact date. We advance medicine, and we know exactly when you can come back." And
that's right.
If that happens, I know this. I'll be nervous AF.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because I want him fully healthy. Ty Windisch of the Gyro Step Podcast. Look for it wherever you get your podcast. As always, good run with you. Thank you, my friend.
Thanks for having me, fellas.
All right. Coming